Hey all, so we're finally getting to the front part of the interior on this van. What I need to do in here is remove these seats, and I've actually cheated, they're already unbolted just because it was a two-person job, so I need to grab my partner for it. So those have to come out, the rug has to come out, the dash has to come out as well as the center console piece, and the visors have to come out. This is going to temporarily come back out because what's going to happen up here is the dashboard is getting dyed red. Basically everything that's blue now is going to be red. The seats are getting replaced with some Chevy van seats that I have in red. The visors are getting replaced with some Chevy visors I have in red. The carpet's getting replaced with some sort of carpet. I just bought a carpet off of Facebook Marketplace that I think will work, and if it doesn't, it'll work for at least parts of it, and then I'll do the rest some other way. And then the blue parts of the body, so this pillar up across, down, and the sort of wheel well there are all going to get painted black. After my experiences painting the back, I may just do this rattle can because the effort I went through to spray the back correctly, it didn't come out super great. Like all of that took forever to dry and was a problem, so I may just decide to rattle can this. I don't know yet, I haven't decided. But step one is going to be to rip everything out. All right, here we are stripped out. Dash is out. That was easier than I expected, which I'm very grateful for. Seats are out, carpet's out, all of this is out, and much to my joy, no surprises on this floor. There's no rust, there's no rot, there's no problems. That's, thank God. So, yeah, I had to drop the steering column, but yeah, that was easy to get out. So the next thing I need to do is clean this up more thoroughly. I just give it a quick vacuum to get the worst of it out, but I got to get it more thoroughly cleaned. I want to get as much of this old insulation-y stuff out. This side is soda flavored because when I bought this van, I bought myself the super giant Big Gulp, put it in that cup holder, that horrible wood one that was in there when I bought it. Got on the highway, and the first turn on the highway, it just dumped the entire thing in this footwell, so still vaguely Dr. Peppery over here. But yeah, I'm going to clean all this up, try and get all these bits out, and then sound ender's going to go down, and then mat's going to go down over that, and then I'm basically ready to start putting carpet in, which is great because once I get the carpet in, I can get the new seats in, and then that gets me 80% of the way back to functional right there. So this carpet reaches to here, but it doesn't really reach enough to be able to be secured in place. This would have been long enough if I hadn't tucked it around in the back, but if I hadn't tucked it around the back, it wouldn't have had a good way to stay in place. So it was a either or situation, and I decided the back is a bigger problem because I can just put different carpet up here. So yeah, clean the floor, sound deadener it, put down the other stuff, and then I'm ready to start cutting carpet. So the dash and parts here, what I need to do is get all the vents and other things that are attached to them that are not part of the blue part off. And then they're all going to have to get scrubbed. The glove box lid and the little compartment lid over there are both going to have to get removed so I can paint those separately. And then everything's going to get scrubbed with just a regular cleaner. And then it's going to get wiped down with Prepsol. And then it's going to get wiped down with the vinyl prep stuff, which does the final degreasing and cleaning and also slightly softens the vinyl so that the die has a better chance of sticking. And then these are going to get several coats of the red SEM. All of this has been scrubbed with soap and water, waiting for it to dry. Then I'm going to come through and scrub it again with the prep sol, and then again with the vinyl prep, so I can get every last little bit of this clean. So this can all take the dye as best as possible. Inside here, I have scrubbed the floor all throughout. I have sanded, wet sanded all of the stuff that I'm going to be painting. Alright, so there is everything sprayed with the SEM dye. I don't know how clear it was in what I was doing, but I got the basic coverage of the blue with one color, which was I think it's Fire Mist or Firethorn red, and then I went back over it with a darker, redder Napa red, because I wanted something between them. The nice thing about these SEMs is that you can do that. You can kind of layer and get something in between. The only problem I was having is the second can, the Napa red, was spitting every once in a while. It would like stop spraying and blurt a bunch of paint out. So I kept having to sort of account for those. So there may end up being some odd coloration on the top. I don't know. That seems to be where I was having the biggest problem with it. But I brought these into the garage so they can dry. They're going to sit here on the Oles and dry overnight. And then in the morning, we'll see what we've got. All right, update. I couldn't show you because the camera was dead and I hadn't charged it yet. But when I came out this morning, all of these were an incredibly faded red color. This is the best sort of example of it right here. It was like lighter than both of the two colors that I had used. It looked like the dashboard had faded from being in the sun. My only guess, and it was also flat, like shine-wise. My only guess on what had happened is that the dew, as it got cooler in the evening, messed with the finish of the final coat. So what you see here now is I took the last of the Napa red, which is the darker red, and misted over everything, which helped amazingly. Like, it almost brought it back. The only problem is, I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it's still a little bit blotchy and imperfect because I was literally running out of, here, this might show it better. Hopefully you can see the sort of striping. There wasn't quite enough. If I had enough, if I did one more coat, it would be perfect. So since I'm out of that and I'm hoping to get this done, what I've just experimented with is, this is the piece that goes under the steering column, so it's barely going to be visible. And what I just did was, this is the prep stuff. And one of the things this does is softens the vinyl surface. So my theory on it is it might soften the vinyl stuff that I just put on here enough for it to get that gloss back. So I just sprayed this. That's why it's so shiny. This is still on there. You're supposed to spray this on and then wipe it off, but I'm just going to leave it and let it evaporate out. Because if this comes out looking nice and perfect and the finish dries up properly, then I'll know I can just do that to the rest of it. And this will be done and ready to go. Throw all the junks in here. I had to clean up last night. But in here, I put sound deadener down from the front down to where the seats start on both sides. My fear of running out of sound deadener turned out to be justified. I kept using a little bit here and there, and I didn't have enough to do the front. So this whole strip here between and under the seats doesn't have any. The front of the footwell and this tire area does not have any either. That was left over from a previous bit that I put on earlier in owning the van. So yeah, not perfect because I didn't have enough of the hard sound deadener, the matte stuff. But then I put this stuff in. This is a it's called Luxury Liner from Second Skin. It's a foam that's supposed to also absorb sound and noise and heat and whatnot. So I had enough of that to do both footwells and the bit between the seats. So all the areas where somebody will actually be is going to be much nicer. I'm probably going to come back in here with more sound deadener later and do these other areas, but that's a future thing. So the next step for the floor is just to cut the carpet and stick it down. And here's the front passenger compartment all taped up. Like I said, I'm using spray paint because my compressor isn't working. Yes, the new one. So I'm going to do the best I can with this. It's going to be a bit half-assed. Okay, it's going to be a lot half-assed. I have a bad habit, and I'm acknowledging this and setting your expectations, of obsessive perfection or fuck it, get it done, and very little middle ground, and this just flipped from one to the other. So I'm just going to get this done. I'm not even going to film it. This is all painted in here. I don't know how visible it is on camera. It's all right. That could be a little shinier and a little more consistent, but trying to paint across that length turned out to be difficult. It's fine. It's black. It'll do. All right. So it's been a few hours. I went to a tea party. Aside from the pollen that's landed on this, this looks really good. I think that process seems to have worked. I don't see any inconsistencies in it. It looks really nice and shiny. If you compare it to, say, this panel, you can see it's much shinier and the color looks more consistent. So I think I'm going to try that on everything. So I'm going to get a tack rag out, wipe everything down, and then give it all a quick spray. I'm just using, this is the stuff I'm using, the vinyl prep. I'm just using enough of this to basically wet the surface. I want it all wet, but I don't need to like soak in it. I just want it enough to wet the surface so that it can combine with the solvent that's on that surface just enough to soften it up again, and therefore it seems to get it to mix properly and gives me that nice consistent shine. So I'm not going to film it because it's more of me spraying things on it, but yeah, I'm just going to wipe these all down real quick, give them all a quick spray, and then hopefully that takes care of the vinyl dyeing. So I already have high hopes for this. This has been wiped down and sprayed. It seems to be doing good. The color definitely seems to become a little bit more consistent. It's not perfect. I have no idea if this will show up on camera, but there's a slight dark line right there that was one of the spurts out of the darker color, and that hasn't gone away, but it does seem lessened. I do think I put it on a little too thick because I can't see the grain very well in some places, but I'm hoping that as this dries, it'll sink back down into the grain and I'll be fine. The thing that's definitely, oh yes, I just did exactly what I was afraid of doing. I was about to say, the thing that's the problem is wiping anything that falls out of it. And you just see I just absolutely screwed it up there. I was going to show you a slightly whiter spot there, but I've absolutely messed it up right there. So that's a problem. I'll stick a sticker over that maybe, or I'll redo the whole dashboard. I don't know, but that sucks because that was looking way better, and now I've just put a mark in it, and I do not have any red left with which to fuck around with it. But hopefully overall this will be an improvement enough that I can use these pieces. Further answers to, did this work? No. Not for the reason I thought. The color's all great. It's wonderful. I keep getting mayflies stuck in the vinyl, which keeps effing it up over and over. Also, this drip, I don't know where the hell that came from. So, yeah, that would have worked, except for mayflies and whatever this drip was. So, we'll see what it looks like when it's done. Okay, next morning, and here's our final results. So there's the drip. And you can see it's pretty obvious. It's actually a little bit less obvious than when it was wet, but it's still pretty obvious. Multiple more mayflies stuck in it. Here, here, On the dash, we've got all sorts of dripping that happened that I didn't even notice yesterday. So it's all effed up, and then mayfly spots. So the thing is, at this point, I don't know what my best course of action is, because these mayfly spots, especially the ones where, yeah, there's like bits of mayfly still stuck in here. Scratching at that gets the bits out, but leaves even more of a mess. So I don't know really what my best course of action is at this point. I think what I'm going to do at this point is just install the dash and put the van back together, and then do some research and decide what I'm doing next. I may even decide that this is good enough, and then, you know, maybe the really bad spot I'll put a sticker over or something, and then try and find a red dashboard. But I think I'm not going to try and put more dye on it, because I think I'm going to get to a point of chasing, you know, sunk cost fallacy, throwing good money after bad, whatever you want to call it. I think I just want to put this in the van, and it'll be good enough, it'll look decent. Somebody will have to look closely to see the problems with it. If the drip marks on the top are really obvious, I'll put a piece of like fur or shag carpet or something across the top of the dash and hide that. But I don't think it'll be a huge problem. So I'm kind of bummed with this, because it was coming along okay, and then it just kind of fell apart in the last leg. But it's still better than a blue dashboard, so we're going to leave it at that as far as good enough. And then we'll see if we can make it actually good down the line. So this needs all the vents and such installed back into the back of it, and then it needs to get put into the van. This is the carpet that I'm going to be putting in the front of the van. After all my comments about how much I hate shag carpet, I ended up with shag carpet because it was $40. So if I hate it, I can rip it out, put something else in later. But it was the easiest way to just get a carpet right now. This is the original blue carpet. Those are the covers for the doghouse. This is one of the two tire covers, or wheel well covers. I have to find the other one. I'm going to cut these all out of this carpet, and that'll still leave me enough along that edge to do the two rear wheel wells, which means all my carpeting will be done. Alright, here's the other interior stuff that I got on my stash. Most of this you've seen on previous junkyard hunting videos. This is the edging that goes around the door frame. Those in red. These are my red door armrests. This one's not perfect. It's got a split in it. I have a set of tan ones that I was going to dye, but after the luck I had dyeing the other stuff, I think I'd rather just have imperfect red ones. Set of red sun visors. These are a little faded, the mount plates. I think I'm going to spray them really quick with black paint, just because they're going to be up against the black, rather than once again trying to match a shade of red. So those, I'm very entertained that they have a vintage catalytic converter information sticker on it. And then these are the seat belts that I got out of the junkyard van. They need a little bit of cleaning, but they're pretty good overall. These things, the buckle ends, these were all split, but I went on Seatbelt Planet. Yes, the same people that I ordered my custom Oldsmobile seatbelts off of, and they have these, which are pretty darn close. They may not be perfect, but they're going to get me pretty close. This is stitched in, so I have to come in and carefully clip it before I can feed it down into that. But even if this end buckle is flopped over a little bit, it's going to be way better than having this like that. And the color match isn't terrible, it's pretty good. So that's all got to go in. So, seats. These were the ones in a previous video that I pulled out of that van at the junkyard. They looked a lot better when I first pulled them out. This was covered with a whole bit of this stuff. It was a failed repair attempt. My plan had always been to replace the vinyl for this section, but the more we looked at them, they've got some other issues. They're split in a few other places, and it just turned into looking like a lot of work. At the same time that we realized all of that, these two seats, like this, popped up on the local Facebook Marketplace. These are also Chevy van seats. They're actually a little bit newer than these, and as such they're a little nicer. They're just a softer material, and they're just a little more pleasant to be in. They didn't have any bases, but they weren't too terribly expensive for two really good seats. The only issue they have is they've got a little bit of paint overspray on them that I'm getting it off, but it's taking a while, so they haven't been completely cleaned. But what I'm going to do is take these seats, put them on these bases, and put those in the van. All right, and the first seat and everything is in. Got the base swapped on and mounted down. These were way easier to do because they've got the bolts attached to them, so it doesn't take two people to bolt the seat down. I've got the seat belts in. I had to drill a hole for the little locating tab on this side to get it to mount properly. I drilled the second hole for the wiring to go through. I was going to drill one big enough for this connector, but it doesn't match the connector under the van anyway, so I'm going to have to cut this off and splice it in with the connector from the belt that came off the van, so I can drill a smaller hole anyway. I'm also going to drill a small hole here, I've decided, so I can thread the wire through here, out along this, and then in there. Mounted the shoulder belt, which I had to drill another hole on that side just to clock it level. This little thing here used to be what held the seatbelt end from the original seatbelt. This was a 79. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet, so I've left it on there. There's no reason to take it off yet. Got the trim around the edge, got the visors on. I've got this amazing red shag carpet in here. I haven't done the wheel wells yet. That's going to be a separate little thing just because I realized I have to glue those down and I'm out of glue. I mounted this section of the dashboard in place. The whole dashboard is in and looking amazing. And yeah, dash issues. You can see the drip here that I talked about. There's that weird spot. Most of the mayfly spots are not that visible now, but I managed to put a scratch here, and I think one other one while I was dealing with it, even though I was careful to only put it on soft surfaces. So I don't think this would have lasted looking great very long anyway, but it'll do for now until I find a red dashboard, and then when I find a red dashboard, I'll just swap the whole thing over. But for now, this will look good enough. I've got my headliner back in, I've got my lights back in. I still have to make a switch panel, but you can just see how amazing this all looks. I mean, just like, look at the red plushness. Look at this. It's completely stupid and ridiculous. With regards to the rug, this rug could reach, I extended this a little bit and it could reach there, but there was a weird little triangle here, so I decided screw it. I cut it and tucked it under the rubber mat. I've got this one tucked up so they've got kind of an edge here. I may find a slightly cleaner way to do that down the line, but for now that'll do just fine. And then I've got this one slightly mounted, but I need to permanently mount both of these seat wheel well things once I get this piece done and once I figure out how I'm wrapping this little bit here. So that'll just clean that up. The carpet's going to get either glued or screwed in place just to make it solid there. This carpet here I ended up screwing in with tech screws because I was going to glue it and then realized I need to take it off later because I'm going to actually bind. A friend said they'd bind the edges of it, and plus you can see just how cheap this carpet is because you can see just how little shag there is relative to the amount of backing there is. So I'm not sure I'm going to keep this carpet, so I'm not going to glue it down if I'm going to be peeling it up later. I am going to probably end up gluing it to these just because there's no other way to attach it here, but the less places I glue it, the better. There is a piece of trim I got off of the Beauville van that's going to go here, that's going to hold that edge of the carpet down. But yeah, overall, I mean, I think I'm really happy with this. It totally changes the look of the van. It's completely insane how much different it looks in here now. So that's it for this video because the camera's about to die, so I'm going to mount this seat off camera. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.